Iran appears to be on the verge of collapse, the type of collapse that is unavoidable at this point. It seems as if the only way that they can survive as a nation, the only way the Ayatollah's regime can continue, is if the United States bails them out. I don't think Russia's an option, and I don't think anybody else could. So it would be up to the United States to bail them out. And according to the Crown Prince, he's definitely asking the United States to not bail them out. Will President Trump pull an Obama, send pallets of cash? I don't think so, and neither should you. A district attorney who is backed by none other than George Soros in the great state of Texas, with the one district that makes everybody mad down in Austin. Well, he went super soft on a career criminal, and of course, after the career criminal was not charged for violent crimes, he went off and committed another one, this time killing a father of 5. Paramount is closer, very much closer, to winning the war against Netflix to take over, to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. This is a humongous. I cannot express just how big this is, and it's not getting a whole lot of attention. Most people don't really care. It's like, oh, just another merger. No, this is much, much, much bigger than another merger. If this goes through, it will change the entire landscape of legacy media. We have all that and more on today's episode of The J.D. Rucker Show. The Iranian regime is reportedly nearing collapse. Now, this comes from Reza Pahlavi, the crown prince, the man who some say should be Shah of Iran had there not been the revolution in 1979. They got rid of his dad. They say that he's a good person. I don't know a lot about him. I've followed some of what he said, and I can tell you that my initial impression of him is that he's a good businessman. He loves his former nation. He's exiled, so he's not in Iran, but he loves the people of Iran, and he wants what's best for them. I'm not sure if he's the leader that a lot of people, especially in Iran, think that he is. And I don't know if he wants to be the leader. He hasn't expressed a whole bunch of interest. He's talked about helping out in the interim. He's got plans for economic rebuilding of the nation after the regime falls. But for the most part, he's out there cheerleading for the collapse of the nation. Now, here's the thing. We here in the United States, there's this long debate about whether or not we should participate in an attack against Iran. Participate, of course, with Israel. There are those who are very adamantly opposed to such a thing, and you've got that whole wing of the conservative side that says, oh, if we do, we're just doing the bidding of Israel, which I think is wrong. On the other hand, I also think it's wrong to say that oh, it's our responsibility to go in there and make sure that they don't have a nuke. I get it. I don't want them to have a nuke either. Okay, let's be clear about that. But I don't think the American people are waking up in the morning and thinking, oh, I wonder if Iran got their nuke yet. You know, it's just, I mean, I know that President Trump during the State of the Union address said that, look, they can reach Israel. They have with non-nuclear weapons. They have the capabilities, allegedly, to be able to reach our allies in Europe and all of our bases across the Middle East. And he claims that they could soon have the ability to reach the United States itself with nuclear weapons. Now, whether or not that's true, it's debatable, but who knows, right? We don't know. I mean, it's hard to get information at all out of Iran, and even with our vast spy networks and satellites and everything that we have surveilling Iran, they're still a tough cookie to crack. So that's why I really like what Reza Pahlavi has been saying in that regard, because he's not, at least right now, this could always change, but as of right now, he's not calling for the U.S. to attack. He's basically just saying, don't give him a lifeline. We have an article posted over at basedunderground.com. Prince Reza Pahlavi says the Iran's regime is collapsing and America must not save them. In other words, he's not saying go in there and bomb them and assassinate the Ayatollah or anything like that. He's just saying, look, they're already collapsing. You just don't go in there and help them. Don't pull an Obama and send in pallets of cash. Don't pull a Biden and pander to them and give them whatever concessions they need. Continue the pressure. Continue promoting the idea that if we let them crumble, if we let them fall, if we support the Iranian people, we might be able to get rid of the regime without firing a single missile or sending a single F-22 on a run in Iran. According to the notes from the article, and we are going to be doing this a lot more often going forward, and maybe with everything that we do, and that is to sort of cater to the content desires of our audience. We know that there's a diverse range of ways that people consume media today. Obviously, you're watching or listening to this podcast. Some people like to just get the headline and a few bullet points, right? Just give me the facts. I don't need everything else. And then some people want a longer form article. We're going to do it all. We're going to with each piece of content, we're going to try to present the podcast, a video, analysis, quick bullet points, and then a long form article. So according to the quick bullet points on this article, Prince Reza Pahlavi, the exiled crown prince and leading voice of Iran's democratic opposition, declared the Islamic Republic regime is on its last leg and about to collapse due to deepening economic crisis intensified by sanctions. And I like how that's worded, because we can say, oh, the sanctions are doing this. It's not really. The sanctions are only exacerbating a pre-existing challenge. This is why it's so sad, so stupid that Iran has been, the leadership, the regime has been so focused on funding terrorism. It's when you have mostly Republican politicians saying they are the number one state sponsor of terrorism across the world. They've been saying that for over a decade now. It's true. They fund Hezbollah. They funded Hamas. They funded so many proxies, not just in the Middle East. Also, they have their proxies in Europe, their proxies in South America, and some would argue they've got proxies right here in the United States of America. We know they have at least some, but some have made the claim that they have a much bigger network operating on U.S. soil than we could even know. Now, if they're spending all this money to hit everybody else, what's happening to their people? Well, their currency is being devalued continuously, and it has been for a very long time. We have our own challenges with inflation here. It's nothing compared to there. People are struggling to just be able to buy basic necessities. It's very, very much like Venezuela was not too long ago, and that's what at least legacy media says that's the prime focus of all of the protests. I would say that that's one of the focuses, but I think the students, even if the economy was doing very well, the students that are behind all of this, the leaders in Iran, amongst the people who are pushing this, they're using that as an excuse to push what they've wanted for a long time, which is internal regime change. And you could argue that Mossad has participated in seeding this discontent. I'm certain they are. You could say the CIA has participated because they like to meddle with pretty much everything. I'm sure they are too. But in this particular scenario, what they're pressing for is to have the people rise up against a regime that is our enemy. Obviously, they're an enemy of Israel, but they are our enemy too. We can't dismiss the fact that the Ayatollah himself, along with members of his government, along with their supporters amongst the people, they don't just chant death to America, and it's like we're supposed to sit back and say, oh, that's cute. That's dangerous. This isn't like a tiny nation, and even if it were, who cares? They want us dead. So when people say, oh, they didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, they did. They did harm us, and if and when they are able to get the technology to attack the United States, I think they will. I don't think that's a stretch. We know they're going to attack Israel again at some point. We know that from from Ezekiel 38 and 39, which I will talk about here in a second. The insurance you need to protect your American dream. That's the tagline for my great friends over at America First Healthcare. You can find out more for yourself. You can reach them by going to patriot.tv/health, patriot.tv/health. Check them out, see what they offer, whether it's for health, for life, for business insurance. They do a fantastic job. That's just me saying it. I would strongly encourage you to reach out to them through that link, talk to them, and see what they can do for you. Because look, we can say, oh great, it's awesome, they're America First company and blah 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 blah. They have their shared values and all that. That's great, right? It really is. But is it better? I mean, we're not going to be getting worse coverage just because we can they might give us worse coverage, but by golly, they promote America. That's that's just not going to happen. We are practical people, my audience here at Patriot TV. But with that said, they claim, and I would encourage you to research it, but they claim they actually have better coverage than what you get through the government-controlled healthcare systems or even many of the private healthcare offerings out there. And more importantly, perhaps for some of you, they offer better rates. With according to their website, with thousands of insurance plans to choose from, it can feel overwhelming to find the right plan at the right price. At America First Healthcare, we take a holistic approach to make sure we find the best coverage for your exact needs. We get you better rates by helping you choose the right type and amount of coverage. Then we shop around for the best results. They can save you up to 20% on the coverage. Who couldn't use? I know we're most of us, the vast majority of us, are paying. I mean, compared to what we used to pay, my goodness, we're paying a lot. 20% right off the top. That would be a huge benefit. So reach out to my good friends over at America First Healthcare. Go to patriot.tv/health. Patriot.tv/health. But let's get back to these bullet points. Pahlavi stated, "This is the most favorable moment in decades for regime change, urging the West to apply maximum pressure on the regime." Notice he didn't say attack. He said maximum pressure, while giving maximum support to the Iranian people. Now, here's the challenge with that. Let's talk about that for a second. How do we support? I mean, can we arm them? I mean, is it the Contras, right? Do we just change our profile picture on social media? I mean, I'm not sure what to do outside of what CIA and Mossad are already doing as far as getting the people organized, trying to keep communications open, and all that stuff. How else can we support them? So charity we can donate to. It's not like we can go join the cause. That would be pretty difficult to get there. And even if we did, it'd be pretty difficult to not be immediately jailed, right? So what can we do? Obviously, number one, first and foremost, and this should always be number one, first and foremost, in any endeavors, that we must pray. Pray for the people of Iran. Pray for the leaders amongst the people, to keep them organized, keep their spirits up. They are dying. These aren't protests like Antifa in or anti-ICE protests where it's like humongous news if somebody gets killed, like Renee Good or what's his name, Alex Preddy. That's huge news. There, the huge news would be, hey, nobody got killed today. That's insane. How is that even possible? Why? Because the IRGC and their minions, they've got plenty of mercenaries out there doing a lot of the dirty work. They take these people that are protesting, they kidnap them, they rape the women, they rape some of the men. These are reports from on the ground. And yes, they do kill them, to the tune of one thing that I thought or that I had heard about was 32,000 people dead. That's a number that's been thrown out there. I think it's probably higher than that. Again, reporting out of Iran is very hard to come to. So how do we support them? I actually don't know, but that's fine. I don't have to know. We just got to figure it out, and definitely pray for them. He warned against throwing the regime any more lifelines, calling it disingenuous and dishonest, and insisting Western leaders must trust the Iranian people instead. In other words, don't No more pallets of money. No more pandering to them. And I think what he's really saying here, as far as to President Trump, he knows that President Trump wants a diplomatic solution, as I think most of us do. Wants a diplomatic solution. That diplomatic solution shouldn't be for, hey, you can stay in power, and just go easier on your people. That's not a solution. And Iran has never been a proper actor in any negotiation ever in their history, at least under the current regime of 46 years. They don't negotiate in good faith. They will do and lie. Like they are. Let's be clear. They are ordered by their faith to lie to non-Muslim peoples. Okay? Let me make that clear. This isn't just, if you need to lie, it's okay to lie, if you're negotiating with America or anybody else. No, they must lie. I hope that you all understand this. Like they have to do whatever it takes to get the most possible benefit in any negotiation if it's with a non-Muslim. So in other words, a non-Muslim nation in this case. So they are encouraged, they are mandated to say and do whatever it takes to where they can then ultimately fulfill their promise of death to America. That's why when we're talking about these negotiations, I truly hope that what we're actually talking about, what's actually happening with these negotiations, is an exit ramp. It's like, hey, guys, you're done. Okay, you're right now. You're negotiating to not be bombed. You're negotiating to not be killed, to not get Delta forced out. We're saying, look, Moscow's letting you come. Go there. Okay. You want to take a little bit of money, to survive on, great, but you're not taking it all. And you're not launching any missiles at us, and you're not launching any missiles at Saudi Arabia or Israel. You just pick up your stuff, get out, and we won't kill you. That should be the negotiation. There should be no, we'll lift sanctions if you just slow down on killing your people, reduce the number of rapes. I mean, yeah, I get the point there. Pahlavi revealed plans for an Iran prosperity project that would reopen the country to Western investments and generate more than $1 trillion in revenue for the American market in the first 10 to 15 years after regime change. This is big. I mean, it's when we start talking about $1 trillion, I don't care who you are. That's a lot of money. Okay? It's a lot of money. Now, these are words. Who knows? I don't know if anybody's analyzed the plan. I don't know what the plan entails. We don't know anything about it. We just know, hey, there's a plan with a catchy name and a big number attached to it. So can we trust it? I don't know. Couldn't tell you. What I can tell you is that there will be a need for Iran to be rebuilt. There already is a need for Iran to be rebuilt because they are in shambles. So if the regime change can happen, Lord willing, without much American intervention and zero American military intervention, if they can be pressured out, awesome. Pray for that. Not a single missile shot in 2026 at Iran. The regime leaves. The IRGC is either disbanded or controlled, because what we don't want is then in the power, the vacuum that's left, we don't want further fundamental leaders. Okay, we got rid of the mullahs, we got rid of the ayatollahs. Now it's under control of the military, the IRGC, which is still fundamentalist Islamists, and not much would change. The other army, the larger army, less trained, less funded, but the other army, the People's Army, which really handles more of the actual army duties, they are for the most part secular. That's one of the reasons why a lot of them are not in the IRGC. They should be able to, hopefully, Lord willing, defend whoever the new leadership is. As long as we're talking about a non-radical Islamic leadership structure, the way that they have now, as long as we're talking about democracy, some sort of republic, one that's based upon the will of the people from a secular perspective, because I think, unlike a lot of the Muslim countries out there, one thing that separates Iran from those other ones is that they are truly forced into being an Islamic nation. It's not like in Saudi Arabia, where like 98% or whatever of the population are Muslims and practicing Muslims, and full-blown, hey, yeah, this is what we want. In Iran, the majority of the people are secularists. They're secular, and they would prefer to be secular throughout. Like, even those who are allegedly practicing Muslims don't necessarily want to be. They're just pandering to the will of the government. Don't get me wrong. There's still plenty of fundamentalists, okay, within Iran. It's not like there's none. Shia is very powerful in the nation, but most of the Iranians are not like that. Most of the Iranians are relatively Western in their style and culture, or at least they would be if they weren't forced into burqas and prayers 5 times a day and held down by this illegitimate regime. And to be clear, it is illegitimate. People could say, oh, but the people rose up in revolution in 1979. We could call that one of the first modern color revolutions. It was orchestrated by radical globalists in Europe. It's a discussion for another day, but it is what it is. So, with all that said, I'm going to throw a little bit of we'll call it speculative, something to get you thinking. But it's the reason that I don't think things are going to work out very well. And I mentioned previously Ezekiel 38 and 39. Now, there's a lot of nations mentioned. There's a lot of discussion. This is number one for those who say, oh, it might have already happened. This is very clearly, it's announced as a latter times event. It has not happened. It will happen during the end times, which I believe we are in right now. This war, there's a lot of players involved, but there's only 2 players that are one is 100% known. The other one is 99% known. The 100% known is, of course, the country that's going to get attacked, which is Israel. That's plain and blatant. The other one is Persia, which is modern-day Iran. Okay? All the others, Gog of Magog, and they say, oh, it might be Russia. Turkey's mentioned, so we don't think it's Turkey. It could be, there's speculation. There's some good speculation. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's incorrect, but as far as certainty, we are certain that during this war, during this battle, that Iran is going to participate in attacking Israel. Okay, with me on that? So if this is the case, if we were like, oh, Iran's close to a regime change that's going to make them more friendly to Western society, probably more friendly to, definitely more friendly to Israel. You can't get any less friendly than the current Iranian regime is. And maybe, so if that is the case, then that means that the scenarios to tie into biblical prophecy are limited. Number one, it could be that we're just far off. Yeah, it's just that the Ezekiel war is not happening in the next few years, we'll say. Because, again, with a regime change, it's hard to imagine that they would go from, okay, cool, yay, Ayatollah's gone, now let's attack Israel. Option 2 is that it is coming. It's coming relatively soon, we'll say in the next 3 or 4 years, and that there's going to be a change amongst the people, amongst the leadership. Maybe they sour on the United States. Maybe Russia makes them an offer they can't refuse. Maybe, whatever. Okay? But something happens to where Iran still gets involved and participates in attacking Israel. And there's the option that they do cater to us, but that a future administration, a future regime, turns against Israel and not necessarily participates in attacking them, but leaves it wide open for, hey, Israel's done a lot of wrong. You guys go ahead and do whatever you need to do. We don't like it, but we're not going to stop you. So there's that option. Then there's the option that they're not removed, that the Ayatollah and his regime do stay, that despite American attacks or non-attacks, despite the rising up of the people, that they are able to stay in power. And in that scenario, obviously still in bed with Russia, Perhaps they would be able to stay because of Russia. Who knows? But again, in that scenario, yeah, okay, so Ezekiel 38 and 39 could play out sometime soon. Those are the options. And this is one of the reasons why, regardless of what happens with these negotiations, what happens with the potential for an attack, and the potential for a counterattack at that, despite all of this, I'm still not convinced that the Ayatollah is going to leave. And even if he does, there's one other option is that the Ayatollah is pushed out, and then a new, they try. Maybe there's another revolution in a year, 2 years, however long, and now another evil regime takes over, or maybe it's the old regime that is able to regather their troops and get the IRGC band back together again, and then they go back and take Tehran and start the whole regime thing all over again. The challenge here, and you might say, "Oh, that's not possible. They hate the regime. If they get removed, they're never coming back." Well, here's the thing: Iran is in a very, very hard position, with or without the Ayatollah. Their economy is tanking. It's not something where they, okay, cool, we got rid of the Ayatollah, and now all of a sudden, bananas are cheap. Do they even eat? Do they do bananas? I don't know. I don't know if they do bananas in Iran, but whatever it is that they eat, that it's not going to be quick, and there could be more suffering. And who knows? Maybe in a year or two, they're open to bringing the old band back together. So we will see. Pray for them. Pray for our involvement, and I'm not saying pray for us to get involved. I'm saying that whatever our involvement is, pray that it is successful, quick, and we're not stuck there, and we don't lose American lives. Pray for the people of Iran. They want this. They want this badly. The only reason, normally I would trust, they're the experts, right? Normally I would trust they like Reza Pahlavi a lot. They really want him to come in. They really want him to lead them. Normally I would trust that and that alone. In this scenario, not only do I have, I would say, I wouldn't call it mixed feelings. I have uninformed feelings towards Reza Pahlavi, and so far I haven't been impressed, not with him as a person, but I haven't been impressed with his ability to be a leader or the leader of Iran, on a permanent or semi-permanent basis. I don't see it yet. Maybe I'm wrong. The people seem to think that. The only reason I'm not taking that into much account is because the entirety of Iran, the people have been in a version of a hostage situation for a very long time. It's not just the bad economy. It's not just the oppressive regime. It's everything, the totality of that. And sometimes when you have that option that you're in now, any other option seems better, and you sort of latch onto it. It's sort of like, hey, somebody might be a very bad person, right? Like a thief, a con man. But if they can go in there and save a kidnapped victim, the kidnapped victim's not going to be like, oh, don't help me, you thief, you con man. No, they'd be like, yeah, get me out of here. I've been getting tortured. Okay, horrible analogy there, but I think you get the point. The people of Iran may be so starved for hope from a leadership perspective that they are latching on to the best possible option. In this case, that is Reza Pahlavi. Hopefully somebody else steps up, or maybe Reza Pahlavi steps up himself and proves me wrong. Either way, we will see. Pray for the people of Iran. Pray for our troops. Pray for everybody involved, because this is a hard situation for everyone to be in. We need the Lord to determine what's next, what happens to the people of Iran, what happens for the people of Iran, and how involved is the United States going to be. Stay tuned. It's getting hotter one way or the other. Netflix is out. Paramount Skydance is in when it comes to the purchase of Warner Brothers Discovery. And if this goes through, this will be the biggest media move made in at least decades, perhaps most of our lifetimes, and perhaps ever, when it comes to reshaping the landscape of legacy media. and mostly because of the timing. It's not that this is just a huge deal. It is huge. That's important. But the timing is extremely relevant considering the direction of media in general, not just legacy media, but with the rise of streaming, the rise of user generated content, podcasts, of course, and then the whole AI thing. This is the big one, okay? This is it. Yeah, Netflix is going to take control. They seem to be in the driver's seat. But then Paramount and David Ellison, the CEO, they didn't let it go. They kept pushing, and pushing, trying to get a hostile takeover going, trying to get a lot of things going to make it happen. They really wanted this. They wanted it badly. Netflix didn't want it badly enough. They have just walked away. We've got an article over at economiccollapse.report. Paramount Skydance wins the battle for Warner Brothers Discovery as David Ellison remakes the media landscape. You can read the whole article yourself, but I'm going to go through some of the highlights, and you'll notice that in the image we picked, there's a nice picture of President Trump giving the thumbs up. That may not be the case, okay? I'll talk about that here in a second. I mean, would he prefer David Ellison and Paramount over Netflix? You betcha. But there's a lot of implications here. We'll dive into it in this episode of the Economic Collapse Report. Warner Brothers Discovery's board declared Paramount Skydance's revised $31 per share all cash bid a, quote, superior proposal over Netflix's existing merger agreement, triggering a match window that Netflix ultimately declined. Netflix opened the doors. They gave them 7 days. They said, look, we already have the agreement ready to go. We've got the pathway to get it through the government watchdogs. We're going to get this approved, and then we're going to do it at $27.75 per share. Paramount decided that they wanted to go and attempt a hostile takeover. They wanted whatever they could to muddy the waters. And Netflix, to their credit, I hate giving them any credit, but to their credit, they're like, look, this is going to get ugly. We'll give you 7 days to a 7-day window to negotiate with the board, with shareholders, and then we'll see which one they pick. Now, the board over at Warner Brothers, they still want Netflix, but they gave Netflix 4 days to basically match after stating that Paramount had put out the superior offer and Netflix walked away. So it looks like, at least as of now, there's still a few hoops to go through, but as of now, Paramount is definitely in the driver's seat. Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters stated that the deal was no longer financially attractive at the price required to match Paramount's Skydance offer. Keep in mind, the original offer back in September was, I believe it was either $17 or $19. So this bid has gone up tremendously, almost doubled, now at $31 per share. Paramount Skydance, led by David Ellison, son of Trump ally and Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison, sweetened its offer multiple times, ultimately raising the bid 63% from its original September proposal to secure the deal. A combined Paramount WBD entity would merge HBO Max with Paramount Plus, unite Warner Brothers and Paramount Skydance Studios, and place both CNN and CBS News under a single ownership structure. And this is where, when I say that we got Trump cheering, yes, this is the better scenario that he wanted, but he's been very critical. Very, very critical of CBS News, in particular 60 Minutes, stating very recently that 60 Minutes, ever since being acquired, ever since CBS News was acquired by Paramount, and ever since Barry Weiss took over as the head of CBS News, Trump says it's gotten worse. Now, I disagree. It hasn't gotten worse. It hasn't gotten better as fast as I think a lot of us expected, especially, those who hated the move, who hate Barry Weiss, who thought, oh my gosh, it's going to become a right-wing utopia now. It didn't. And to be clear, Barry Weiss is not, she's not a right-winger, okay? She has certain libertarian stances, but I mean, she's not conservative by any means. So I'm not saying that she's worse than her predecessors, or that she's bad relative to any of the other heads of any of the other studios out there. She's great, but that bar is pretty low to achieve considering how awful legacy media is. She's to the left of Fox News, and Fox News is not exactly staunch conservative. So yeah, so CBS marginally better. I disagree with the president that they've gotten worse since she took over. They have not. They have, and this is one of the reasons that they keep losing people. Right. So, but now what's going to happen to CNN? CNN is of course far left. They love them some Democrat policies. They love to defend Joe Biden. So many of them over there embarrass themselves by talking about how with it and aware Joe Biden was, and now obviously reversing and claiming, oh my gosh, Joe Biden was bad, we didn't notice, but now President Trump, he's definitely got dementia or whatever. Will that change under David Ellison? I think for sure it will. Now keep in mind, even we know that Larry Ellison, former Oracle founder, and very, very, very deeply embedded into the artificial intelligence world, that he is an ally of President Trump. David Ellison has demonstrated a willingness to also be an ally, but he's very young. I think he's at 40 something. Okay, he's more of an entertainment guy, and I'm okay with that. Okay, like I would want, but I don't expect whoever takes over any of these media places to be like all worshiping Pat Buchanan or Reagan or even Trump. I want, just do the news, man. Just do the news. Put out good entertainment. Okay, and to be clear, David Ellison was one of the guys behind Top Gun Maverick. Yeah, if you like that, yeah. I mean, he was involved with that. He's involved with a lot of the unwoke productions out there. So that's the best that we can expect. So we'll see. Is this going to work out? There are still some hurdles to go through. WBD shareholders emerged as the clear financial winners. So Warner Brothers, if you own Warner Brothers stock, your stock has surged 78% throughout this bidding war. Paramount and Netflix shares have fallen 36 and 30%, which is normal, when you're talking about spending, anywhere between 82 billion all the way up to over $100 billion as a company. Yeah, your shares are going to go down. Well, when it's being discussed that you're about to get bought for tens or even over $100 billion, yeah, shares are going to go up. Should have bought Warner Brothers about 8 months ago. The deal includes a $7 billion regulatory termination fee. That's just a breakup fee. Okay, if anything happens, if antitrust laws stop the deal from going through, then Paramount's going to have to pay Warner Brothers and their shareholders $7 billion. They also said they will absorb the $2.8 billion that now has to be paid to Netflix, since their bid had been accepted and now it has been unaccepted. Political undertones were prominent throughout the process. David Ellison attended Trump's State of the Union as a guest of Senator Lindsey Graham. Oh, more on that here in a second. With Netflix, Ted Sarandos was seen arriving at the White House on the same day Netflix declined to match the bid. The deal still faces a WBD shareholder vote scheduled for March 20th, and that's almost certainly going to go through. And significant regulatory review before it can be finalized, and that will very likely, over a 50% chance that it will pass muster there. Mostly because there's not very many options here, okay? Like, it's a fair offer. It's not a monopoly. There's still plenty of other media out there. Yeah, these are 2 of the top 5, but it's not like, merging of 3 of the top 3. This should work, okay? All things being equal, this should work. Now you might say, oh, this is a huge win for Trump, huge win for conservatives, huge win for MAGA, huge win for America. I would say it's a decent win for Trump. Okay, we can assume that CNN is going to be at least semi-watchable in the future. Whether that takes 6 months or a year or 2 years, it's not going to continue to be the radical leftist propaganda garbage that it's been ever since. Really since at least 15 years, maybe longer. You could trace it all the way back to the Bush days when you really started seeing them push away from being, unbiased or at least semi-unbiased to actually being full-blown just oh, we hate George W. Bush. We love Bill Clinton. We miss Bill. We hate George. They love Obama. Oh, they loved Obama a lot. Hated Trump. Loved Biden. Defended Biden. Protected Biden. Loved Kamala Harris. Those little bits and pieces should tell you exactly where they stand, and that's not going to continue under David Ellison, under Paramount. I don't expect them to go right wing. Okay, I still expect them to be to the left of Fox News, and Fox News again is not the conservative bastion that I think a lot of Republicans feel that it is. Is it better than the others in legacy media? Sure, but again, that's not saying much. But here's the challenge, the concern that this brings, and I've had alarm bells going off about Larry Ellison and his push for AI domination. I've had alarm bells about David Ellison, his son, CEO of Paramount Skydance, who has expressed globalist tendencies. So where's the money coming from? The money, we're talking over $100 billion. It's not like he can just stroke a check. It's a lot of money, and they're getting backing from, you guessed it, and if you've seen certain movies from the 70s and 80s, you'll know why this is important. A lot of the money is coming from Saudi Arabia. And where is some of the other money coming from? Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner has put together a supporting funds to help make this happen. And for those who don't know, Kushner, who's President Trump's son-in-law, also has extreme globalist leanings. You could say all the good things you want about him, and a lot of people do, but the negatives to me completely outweigh the positives. And it's funny that Ellison was at the event as a guest of Lindsey Graham, who is the neocon's neocon, the warmonger of them all, the military-industrial complex's favorite senator. Yeah, that Lindsey Graham. So, again, wow, this is great relative, compared to Netflix. I'll take Paramount over Netflix literally every day of the year. There is no world in which I would want Netflix to gain even more power, more studio share, more market share, more eyeballs, because they are a extraordinarily woke company. Perhaps the wokest in major media, and that's including comparing themselves to companies like Disney. Okay, they're bad, and they've demonstrated a willingness to do whatever it takes to spread cultural Marxism, doing whatever they can to promote a globalist agenda, a left-leaning world. So yeah, great that they're out. But don't think, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever to have David Ellison in charge. It's not. It's good. We'll take it. We'll take everyone we can get. But I know I can hear people saying, oh, Trump's going to have control CNN now. That's not going to happen. And nor should it, to be clear. We can complain all we want about how legacy media is controlled by the left. Would it be better to have it controlled by the right? Not to me. As far as I'm concerned, make the news, okay, CNN, Fox News, I don't care. Legacy media itself should, what? Oh, report the news. Just tell us what's happening. Don't tell us what to think. Tell us the facts and let us think for ourselves. I've long said that the most important elections in any election year are going to be the local ones. That's where you have the most impact, where your vote counts the most, and the people that you elect will have the greatest influence over your life, more so than the president, more so than your senators or congressmen or even governors, okay, or state legislators, though they are a close second. What you do locally, your mayors, your city council, and perhaps most importantly, two roles, sheriff and district attorney or attorneys general, depending upon your jurisdiction, those make an impact, a direct impact. And sometimes it can be the difference between life and death. That's why this latest story is so important. We have it posted over at Patriot TV, Patriot.tv. You can check it out. Soros puppet DA went soft on career criminal, which is a standard operating procedure for these puppet DAs, who then murdered a father of 5. Such a sad, sad story. Let's go over the details. You can, again, read the entire story over at Patriot.tv, but let's look at what we know so far. Travis County District Attorney Jose Garza is facing renewed criticism after career criminal Caleb Anthony Jenkins was charged with murdering a 25-year-old father of 5 outside an Austin 7-Eleven. Of course, oh my gosh, it's Texas. Oh wait, it's Austin. That's not really Texas. That's the San Francisco of Texas. That's the Seattle of Texas. Jenkins had accumulated at least 3 separate gun charges dating back to 2022, all of which were dismissed or declined for prosecution by Garza's office. Apparently, criminals, they don't like guns unless it's the criminals that have the guns. If a law-abiding citizen has a gun, lock them up. But if a career criminal gets a gun, it's like, oh my gosh, it's the system, it's the environment, it's the process. It's just, it's Trump. It's got to be Trump. But it wasn't just gun charges. Jenkins was also arrested on a domestic violence charge in 2023, failed to appear in court, was rearrested, and then released again after a bond increase, and ultimately went on to the alleged murdering of a man. We have to grasp a certain understanding, and it's going to be hard for you. It was hard for me for a while to fully accept it. We want to think that people are incompetent. There's that old saying, never, I don't know how the saying goes, to the effect of never blame on evil what can be dismissed as stupidity or something to that effect. We just think, oh my gosh, these guys are idiots. They're so dumb. Look at what happened. He thought that he was doing the right thing and letting this guy out, thinking, oh, he'll reform himself. But look, he just went and murdered somebody, a father of 5. That's not what they think, okay? That's not what they think at all. I would go so far as to say, yes, they are evil. And yes, they know that the people, the criminals, these violent people that they release, such as this man Jenkins, who was already in jail he was already arrested, not in jail, but he was already arrested on multiple gun charges. He was already arrested for domestic abuse. He failed to show up in court. They rearrested him and then just said, okay, well, this time you got to pay even more than the minimal amount to get out of jail. And then, just make sure that you come next time. They know what's going to happen. They want this to happen. George Soros wants this to happen. You can say what you will about George Soros. Is he evil? Yeah, you betcha. Is he powerful? Uh-huh. Is he corrupt? Yes. He's all of those things. And I would argue that his son, Alex, who is now quickly becoming the new patriarch of the clan, that he might be even more evil than his father, George. We'll see. Time will tell. But we do know this, that he is a smart man. George Soros is smart. Dude's clever. And that's why he puts so much emphasis and so much money to back these woke and controllable district attorneys. Yes, he wants criminal justice reformed. He wants it reformed to nil. He wants the criminals out in the streets as much as possible because George Soros and his kind want America to be destroyed. We have to understand this. This isn't about incompetence. This isn't about, oh, if we try it again, it'll work this time. Or, oh, that it's not, I'm not talking about their minions, their little, the protesters that go out. They're brainwashed and think, oh, yeah, we don't need police. We don't need jails. We can address crime with just compassion. Compassion. I'll keep saying it until it annoys you to death so that you pay attention to this stuff. Jose Garza, the district attorney in Travis County, is amongst the worst of the offenders of this. And again, we're talking about Texas here. Garza, who had no prior prosecutorial experience before taking office, was elected in 2020 with significant financial backing from George Soros, from his PAC that had contributed $652,000 and spent nearly $1 million on campaign advertising. It's $1.65 million to a lowly district attorney in a relatively small county. Why? Because it's Austin. Because they need a foothold as much as possible to sway the people. You might think, but if crime goes up, isn't that going to sway the people? No. This is where you can, I said before, don't attribute to stupidity or incompetence, or, well, that's what they say. In this case, you can attribute this to stupidity when it comes to the minions, the brainwashed, indoctrinated fools that believe the campaign lies, the campaign rhetoric about compassion, about, oh, we don't need jails, we don't need cops, we don't need arrests, we need to take these people and just show them love, and then they're gonna change their ways. We need to get guns out of the hands of law-abiding citizens, and we need to make sure that if the criminals have guns, that we don't do anything about that, because they got to defend themselves against those crazy right-wingers that are armed. I mean, what's criminals supposed to do if they're in the middle of committing a crime? Of course, they got to shoot everybody. How can they do that if the law-abiding citizens are armed? It's just so unfair. We can't grasp the mentality, you and I. Okay, we can't. You have to take common sense, put it in a box, and then burn the box in order to grasp the ideas that these radical leftists embrace. But let's stop trying to attribute what George Soros does, what Jose Garza does, what this career criminal Caleb Anthony Jenkins. Let's stop trying to say that it's stupidity or incompetence or anything else. It's not that their ideas don't work. It's that their ideas work exactly as they intended them to work. Okay? And you can even at the criminal level, this guy allegedly went to a 7-Eleven and shot and killed a father of 5. Do you think that he went there from his car? So it's not like, oh, he was under attack or whatever. There was a dispute. We don't know what happened. The details haven't been released. But I can tell you this, is that he didn't shoot him with the intention of scaring him away. It wasn't, oh my gosh, he was just trying to pull the gun and accidentally went off and murdered the other guy. So, it wasn't, or, oh my gosh, Garza just didn't expect this guy to be a repeat offender. He looked at him, he's like, wow, this guy's got multiple gun charges, domestic abuse. Yeah, this guy is definitely a career criminal. Set him free. And George Soros knows very well that the fastest way to destroy America is at the grassroots level. And the fastest way to destroy America at the grassroots level is through the various types of crimes. It's not just about letting people go. It's about keeping people hidden. It's about passing laws that allow drug users to run rampant. It's about throwing compassion out. No, we don't need to get the drug users off the streets. We need to give them clean needles so that they can live longer, and so they can take more drugs, harm more people. We'll get them clean needles. That'll help. It is evil. It's a strong delusion, and it's biblical. We knew that this stuff was coming. The Bible warned us that men will be calling good evil and evil good. From their perspective, they think that Caleb Anthony Jenkins is the victim of the system. They call him the good guy. They think that he's the good guy. They think that George Floyd was the good guy. They think that Renee Good was the good guy. And they think that law enforcement, they're all bad guys. This is what's promoting, pushing the whole anti-ICE movement. I don't want to call it a movement. It's just pure evil. Let's see what else this says. Dennis Ferris, president of the Austin Police Retired Officers Association, previously had accused Garza. Garza's got a history. Okay, this isn't his first rodeo of letting out criminals about being just a horrible DA. Again, horrible to our eyes and to reality, but doing his job perfectly as far as he's concerned, as far as George Soros is concerned. He had previously accused Garza's prosecutors of acting more like defense attorneys than prosecutors, and that's true, and said that victims were no longer being consulted before plea bargains were offered. They just do whatever it takes to put as many criminals on the street as possible. And conversely, they'll do whatever it takes to put as many law-abiding citizens either behind bars or too scared to act. This is the whole Daniel Penny thing. Why would they take that? Why would they even try to prosecute that guy who did nothing but probably save lives? It's upside down, folks. And again, you have to understand this is a spiritual warfare. This isn't just about wokeness. This isn't just about people being incompetent or stupid. This is about evil attempting to prevail in the United States of America, because if they can take us down, then the rest of the world will crumble. They know this. That's why we're their targets. And the easiest way to take us down, one of the ways, there are 50 different fronts upon which we have to defend. Okay, there's 50 different fronts that we have to fight this war. This is just one of them, but we got to fight them just one at a time. Let's stay on this one. The family of Doug Cantor, who was killed in the 2021 6th Street mass shooting in Austin, publicly accused Garza of slow walking the gunman's prosecution and putting the case on the back burner. Why? Because it was a crime. Crimes are not important to Soros-backed DAs. Trying to figure out how to let criminals go, that is what is important. Multiple victims of families have described Garza's office as unresponsive, secretive about case decisions, and indifferent to their need for justice because they don't want justice. George Soros, Jose Garza, these woke DAs across the nation, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, they don't want justice. They want social justice. They don't want criminals in jail. They want law-abiding citizens in fear. And frankly, folks, it's working in so many ways. You've heard of the Ferguson effect. It's spreading to people, to regular average Joes. Don't become one of those people. You don't let this happen to you. Could you end up getting in trouble in today's world, depending upon where you are, for abiding by the law, for doing what's right? You betcha. But don't let that stop you. Do what's right. Do what's right, and let God handle the rest. Fight the good fight. Critics argue that this is a pattern of declining to prosecute repeat offenders, and it's not an administrative oversight, but a deliberate ideological commitment to decarceration, not incarceration, decarceration and leniency. Soros has funded similar progressive DAs across the country, yada, yada, yada. Garza's office did not respond because, of course, why would they? Why would they respond? Why would they answer questions? I mean, they just do what they do. They were elected. I go back to what I said from the very beginning. We can focus on the 2026 midterms. Great. Trying to keep control of Congress, trying to keep control of the House, of the Senate, trying to defend the MAGA agenda. It's great. We can try to get our governors to be more red. Awesome. Love it. Know and focus on and campaign for the right local people at the city and county level. They have the most impact on your life, on the lives of the people in your family. And this is, again, why evil but brilliant George Soros focuses so much on getting woke sheriffs and woke district attorneys to win and to handle his goal of basically criminalizing the entirety of America, as much of it as possible. Your city councils, your mayors, that's where your focus should be. Figure out who you're going to vote for, see if they're good, talk to them directly. You can reach them. And don't forget, in certain areas, I've lived in places where there's literally an election might have a total of 1,500 total voters. So your vote counts for 1/1,500th of the total, whereas voting for a senator in a state, yours is one of millions, most likely, depending upon your state. That's crazy. Of course you want to focus on local. And again, they have the greatest impact. And unfortunately, this father of five learned the hard way that when you let George Soros determine who's going to be in charge of the criminal justice system in the area, that the people lose.